particular incident? Perfect. Actually, good move. um, so let's say that we have an incident like for Loud Springs, the first stage. We know roughly where the fire was going to burn, and we knew that there was going to be some perimeter that the fire wouldn't go beyond. And so you can see here what I've done is I've sort of in the fuels layer, I've edited it such that this fire should not burn beyond this ring. So if I go back here to my fire module and place flame down, if I put fire right here and we play that back, I'm just going to speed it up a little bit to get us moving along here. What is if I turn on the fuels, or not, what we'll see is that fire is currently spreading in the area. But again, since we've basically changed the fuel such that it can't burn beyond this area, what we'll see is that this fire will eventually burn itself out. So the fire is spreading here. I'm just increasing the speed to get us to that point where we'll see that with those changes to the fuels, fire will stop as is. And that was how we did worked with the was it John, right, who had the data about where the fire perimeter was. We then used that data to create her and just contain the fire inside. So that's a nice way to kind of indicate, like, or sort of on the back end, change the fuel such that it burns the way that you want it to. Because you can kind of think of this sim here as a prop, right? Obviously, there's some realistic aspects or more real aspects about, the wind change and the topography but we are basically the puppet master when it comes to the fuels. We can adjust them how we would like. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn fuel density off real quick. So that is in essence how we were performing scenario one. I'm gonna go ahead and reset this scenario here. Maybe re-slow back down the speed of the sim. And let's see here. Um, so other things that we've done, I think that we did earlier, and maybe this would be more interesting if we did a zoom in. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom a little. And what we were talking about last time was fuels trips around around the houses. And so moving the map around, I'm going to create a new scenario. And to create, I imagine for you guys, we can do IPSFC as like your initial acronym. So use the initial acronym IPSFC underscore, and then we can call it a particular name. So I'm going to call this Pine Haven 0. Now, scenario, and currently the data which homes did it and which homes did not. So if I go back to my field painter, go to density, let's say, the people here on the outside did a very good job and, did their 30, 60, 90 and did a good job of hardening their homes because they know they live kind of on the outskirts of town or of the subdivision. Um, but then maybe the individuals over here kind of got lazy because like, oh, I live next to the river. Like it's not going to really affect me too much, no. And with these changes in the fuels, we can now indicate, let's say that we did have, some winds coming out of the northwest, and we start to see some spots coming into town from a fire that's burning to the left of the screen. And what we can do is we can kind of see how this fire spreads to the different homes, which ones that had the home hardening, how they survived, and then those that decide not to home harden. For instance, over here on Goose Lane, this individual decided not to. We can see that their house burnt down, but areas that did decide to home harden, we can see here that the fire burns a little slower in their areas due to the fact that they've done a lot of cleanup. And actually notice here that the fuels are burning into the river. This has to do with the basically the resolution of the fuel model. We collect data from was it landfire.gov. It's an organization that does all the fuels at 30 meters. And as you can see here, this is it's very different than, you wouldn't expect this river to be here on fire. So maybe what we can do is let's go ahead and reset. So we'll clear the fire off the board. And what we can do is we can go in the fuel painter and clean that up a little bit. So as you can see here, the river uh, bank and some of the central part of the rivers are considered, but this bank here is completely off. So what we can do is we select the fuel type that we want to make it is we want to make it water, and water doesn't burn. And I'm choosing the smallest brush here. And as you can see here, I'm just painting in this bank to clean it up a little bit. So a lot of refinement might be necessary depending upon where it is that you're running a particular instance of the sim. So just be clear, or just be mindful of potentially the discrepancies between the existing fuels that are provided by the federal government at a lower resolution than what you might want to simulate. Does that make sense?
It does. Where did you get that overlay? Is that part of the overlay maps, Kaz, or?
Yes. So so where I'm accessing this area is in the fuel painter.
Right, but then like the map itself that shows you the overlay of the fuels that are there is in a map overlay. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, it is the third from the top
Yeah.
under overlays. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom out so we can maybe see that a little bit better here.
You're saying when the government creates these maps, they're not always like super accurate.
No, they're basically taking these large satellite images and then doing some machine learning or machine vision on them. And they're saying, oh, this particular spot is roughly this color. And so the algorithm says that this 30 meter by 30 meter patch is of this type.
Yeah, you can kind of see the river vaguely, but you can see some overlay of what the computer thinks might be fuels when it's not.
Exactly. So you can kind of see here on the banks a little bit, it's a little confused. And even here where we look at like the vegetative types, like this is obviously a very dense area, but perhaps there's enough of some clearings to change the fuel type in there. So obviously this is as good as the government provides to us for free as citizens. But we also do work with GIS specialists who document this type of data sometimes on a more frequent basis and also at a higher resolution. It kind of depends county to county, state to state, which organization is maintaining that data. But from that data, we work with like organizations in Spain that they have entire states mapped out to a high fidelity, and they do that every year. And we update our fuels to match that. And so in this instance of working here in Pine Haven, this is the resolution of data that we're working with. But if you guys do have access to better data, we can certainly help you integrate that into the system. Yeah.
Question also, like I just kind of went over to my Chrome and it had launched, my program had launched, but it says another instance of any hazard IPSFC is using this scenario. So I guess we can't use the scenario all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing that the software basically considers all scenarios relatively equivalent, or they're not really equivalent, but there's basically one scenario that has a particular name. And so if that scenario can't load, what you should be able to do is go to scenario and then click new map scenario and go ahead and find a new location. You can even use the same name. The software will add like a little number at the back end to make it unique. But yeah, so sometimes when you do try to access a scenario that is already being used by somebody, you'll get that error.
So once we create a scenario, are we able to save it like this?
Yes. Okay. And so, for instance, here, right, I'm going to go ahead and maybe let me exit this real quick. I'm going to clean up this river a little bit, this riverbank a little bit more, and then save it and kind of show you how that saves. So I'm going to go to Fuel Painter. I'm still painting water. I'm going to clean this up down to about here. Paint the rest of this out.
So
And
the
then,
computer thought some of it was water because that's what the
right,
huh?
exactly. So some of it's water, but and even here you can see that like they even called some parts of the bank water when
Not.
it's clear. Exactly. So
Yeah.
here the river's kind of off a little bit. But at this point, what I can do now is I'm gonna go ahead and hit add checkpoint. I'm gonna save that. And so now uh, this updated sort of refined riverbank should keep. And so if I go to scenario, let's say I go to back to my previous scenario, this should have the original fuels. As you can see here, it's a little crispy, or a little not crispy. What would you call it?
Like pixelated
Angled,
almost, right?
pixelated. There we go. I guess I did a little bit of refinement here. And here you can actually see some of the changes that I made to the scenario, to the fuels here to get it to burn how I wanted it to. And we can even see some of the areas that change the fuel types. And if I zoom in even a little bit further, we can see here that I don't think in this instance, the homes were hardened. And we can just see that there's a variety of different fuel types here that alter how the sim burns.
Mhm.
But now if I go back to my scenario that I originally checkpointed, I should see those same changes that I made, these alterations right here. So that sort of smooth bank. So those are how you'd want to save those changes.
And you saved it how? By going, when you say checkpoints, it's
Uh,
right there.
it's right here on the right side. There's save, or you can erase a checkpoint um,
Okay.
if you want to go ahead and reset. And if you do a reset, it should go back to that checkpoint. So nothing should change significantly. But if I do a reset and I do a complete reset, everything should, actually, you know what? I forgot. In the fuel painter, it has its own reset button. So
Okay.
if I want to go ahead and clear the fuels, I want to go back to how it was, I click reset. Notice how there wasn't a confirmation. I'm going to make note of that now. Or I'll remember to mention that to Marcos. So there wasn't a confirmation request. It was like, okay, I'll just reset it. So be careful of that. Yeah, you might lose all
Are you
your work.
sure you want to reset all this work you've just done?
Yeah, that should definitely be in here. um, awesome. So that is in essence how we manage the fuels and how we can kind of change those accordingly. Instead of like, so originally we were altering, so here we had some homes hardened using the density values, but we can also do home hardening with like say the barren fuel type. You know, if a fuel type is barren, it means there's nothing to burn. And so I can also adjust the home hardening of certain places by changing the fuel type to barren. So that is totally an option as well. Um, Instead of just changing the densities. But the fuel painter is going to be, I would say, for you guys, the main tool you'd want to use to basically curate the fuels and vegetation to match or to sort of uh, display to the community how certain things might unfold. And so I would call the fuel painter the number one tool for you guys. And uh, or yeah, and that would be how you guys would do a lot of your work, would be adjusting the fuels to match a particular scenario. um I mean, obviously resources are accessible to y'all, um but how much you guys are going to be using the resources, I'm not quite sure. This is kind of more for a training for firefighters, but there's no reason why you can't incorporate them.
Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Especially if it's a scenario where, like Lyle Springs, where we know a tanker did come in.
Exactly.
Will the program simulate spot fires, or do we create the spot fires?
Yeah, so right now you guys have to create the spot fires. We have code in there that allows it. We just a lot of it's very spot fires can be very finicky. Some people have different expectations, and so when we had the spot fire model in there, some customers liked it. Some of them thought it felt like unrealistic because it was like, well, spot fires in our county burn like this, and so it wasn't the most it wasn't a universal catch-all, and we didn't parameterize it. But the way that we do spot fires is basically just going to the fire tool and placing flame down in different areas. um, and you can also do this via the clipboard, and I can maybe show you how to do that a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the fuels real quick. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up clipboard, which is down here on the bottom right. And this opens up our supplemental software that it basically runs in parallel to AnyHazard. As you can see here, I'm loading up an area that's in the same exact area as we are over here. I bet a little zoomed in. So I'm going to zoom out one step here. And what I'm going to do now is kind of show you how to do some spots. So, all right. I don't know why it's keeps on wanting to go up like that, but here we go.
Really
Perfect.
quickly, what map overlay is this? Because I like this one. It's got this the street names really clear.
Right. This is Esri without the imagery.
Okay, Esri. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go ahead and boot up Bing Hybrid just to keep it consistent. And maybe what I'll do is I'll put this in a separate tab right next to it. Let me grab this and scoot it over. And I'm gonna go ahead and close that. And so imagine now what we're gonna do over here is, I'm gonna place a bunch of flame over here on this side of the highway. And let's say, we had some start, the fire's now burning. And what I'm going to do over here in this window is I'm going to go ahead and go to the fire module and then click igniter. And what I'm going to do now is using this side or on this side of the tool, I'm going to start adding spots with the igniter. And you can see those spots starting to form over here on the left. Do you see those guys coming in?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so this is a nice way to basically introduce spots on an incident without actually having to move your mouse over and click all these different spots. You can do it via clipboard and get the same effect, but without having to ruin the display with a mouse kind of moving all around. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because that way the spots are starting kind of what looks like on their own if you're recording the fire, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And maybe while we're actually kind of on that subject of recording, I recommend if you are on a Mac, there's the software that's by default called QuickTime Player.
Yeah.
What you can do is if you open it up and you right click on it, you can see there's a new screen recording. And what this does is this allows me to record my active screen. And typically when I record videos, I'll have two screens open. I'll have my main monitor, which I'm recording. Then I'll have my second monitor, which is running like clipboard. And there on that clipboard, I can make all the changes to the sim that I want. And I'm strictly recording the main screen.
So Clipboard is it an app or it's a software?
Clipboard is an app that runs parallel to AnyHazard. So if you're running AnyHazard, you should be able to open up Clipboard as well.
Right, and that QR that you just brought up, if I take a picture of it, it'll take me to it, right?
Exactly. So that'll take it to you. So you'll be able to get to the scenario via your phone here, and also the top of the letters up here, this is a link to the clipboard as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you want to do it just on your laptop, you can click this link. And if you want to do it on your phone, you can click this QR code right here. And maybe before I go too much further, I see there's a couple of things in chat. Uh, okay, we got Paula. It's not loading, but you're able to load now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. It's about 3 or 4 times to pull up. Oh, sorry about that, Chad. Chuck, okay, mentioned recording. Shad, is there any way to add additional fuel types? Okay, so you're thinking about Shad, more about like the Scott Bergen 40 fuels, or
So when you go into painting the fuels type and the ignition types, you have water and snow, tall grasses, all of that stuff. I was wondering if we happen to go into a location where there's if we could add like Douglas fir, aspen, lodgepole pine.
gotcha. So we still have in the, it's like kind of in the beta phase still. So I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't suggest using it, but we do have some previous, let's see here, no, that's not this model. We have a couple of different fuel models. I need to find out which one actually has that particular one. I'll chat with Steven about that, and if he's comfortable enough to release it to you guys, I'll go and forward it on to y'all. But typically we stay in the Anderson 13 world with these fuel types. But I'll ask Steven, the owner of the company, to see if we can go ahead and release that to y'all.
And then I remember there's a way to adjust wind speed and direction on the top left. Is there a
Correct.
way to adjust outdoor temperature?
So that actually is currently disabled in the model. We used to have a slider that let you change that in the in clipboard. So if I exit the igniter here and I go to settings and I go to weather, you'll see here that they were in there at a previous time, but we did find a bug actually where it didn't seem to be respecting the fuels or the
Okay.
values here, and so they're currently disabled. But as soon as they're fixed, we'll have a new release that'll specify that.
So that's
Okay.
in clipboard then, right, Kaz?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That's in clipboard.
Did you guys try opening up clipboard on your phones by chance? Like I just realized that when I opened up my clipboard, I started a bunch of fires
Oh yeah, nice.
on the side. So, but clipboard is is a sort of a parallel. To understand this, it's a parallel program that allows me to kind of manipulate what's happening with the fire from a different place, right?
Exactly.
And
And
so you have a
so
clipboard on the right here, and the all hazards on the left. And that's the way you would do spot fires without the arrow showing spot fires happening, right?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Also, too, kind of on the an aside here, if you're not on Mac and you don't have access to QuickTime Player, there's another software called OBS. It's called the Open. I think it's called the Open Broadcasting Software, and OBS is real nice in that it allows you to do a wide array of things. You can actually add different overlays onto your screen while you're recording. So you can maybe put a logo or some diagrams or some markers that you might find of use. Those are all accessible here. But let's say if I turn on the video capture device, or wait, window capture. Hold
That's
on.
OBS. And okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
So I'm
available
gonna.
for Mac? No, huh?
This is both Mac and Windows.
Yeah, because it's a web program, right?
Exactly. And so I'm saying, I want to show display number 1. don't want necessarily want to crop it at all. I'm going to hit OK. And obviously, I need some adjustments here, changing the values around. It is a little wonky at the moment. I think it's because of my screen resolution. But what I can do here is I can use this to, I can start to record a video. I can start a virtual camera if you want to do some other things. But there's definitely there's definitely a lot here. I don't want to necessarily go over OBS, but if you don't have a way to record your desktop, OBS will be a way to do that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, we have to kind of learn how to launch a fire and in a subdivision and do all of that stuff, and then we can kind of move to the recording. I mean, I work off a Mac, so I know about the QuickTime.
Okay, perfect.
But
Perfect.
I think for other folks, we might want to work a little bit on the OBS system later on.
Definitely. Also, too, when you're recording, you can see down here there's a full screen option, and this will put me into that full screen view. That way I don't see that URL bar on top, and this is typically the screen that I would record if I was to create a video.
So you were saying that sometimes what you do, Kaz, is you have one computer with the simulation playing and then another computer with clipboard open so that you can manipulate the spot fires and other stuff without it showing up. Is that
correct?
If I just bring up clipboard on my other computer, how do I find the fire I'm simulating on All Hazard?
Gotcha. So when you go to clipboard, this is the current, so you can see here, this is my Pine Haven scenario.
I type that in.
So what you can do here is this link on top. If you do hit Control, and what you can do is you can go ahead and copy link address. So I right click on this and I click copy link address. I can then go to say, like I'm going to go to chat here. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that into chat. So that is that link. And then when I click the link, that is this clipboard instance right here.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Like you're doing that on your same screen, or you could type it into your other computer to find the link.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and hide these meeting controls. Cool. So now if I go ahead and maybe I'm going to close this and hit reset, go back to the beginning, we see this board get cleared, and this clipboard should be cleared as well. So yeah, having the ability to alter fuels, having the ability to start fires, having the ability to use clipboard to add spots. Those are I think some of the main features that you guys would be interested in. We've been going for about half an hour, 45 minutes now. How are people feeling so far? I know that I hope we're not jumping around too much. I hope that it doesn't feel like it's any questions or comments, concerns?
See how I just started more fires?
Oh, perfect.
From my phone.
Not bad. We already got a pro user in Paula.
Awesome. I don't know about that, but it's fun. It's fun. How do I reset? What if I made a mistake there on my phone? How do I reset that?
So there's a couple different ways you can do that, or you can kind of. There's obviously the main thing is a full reset, but also what you can do is you can maybe perhaps pause the sim, and I believe you can do that via in Clipboard. You can do it via the settings up here. There's like a play, pause, and reset. But one of the tools that, let me see if it's in here. If let me go back to map. Resources, those are markers. So I guess it's not in Clipboard, but it is in any hazard. We do have this ability to use like a fire eraser, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and let's say, I was doing a scenario and I messed up and I put a spot down here. I'm going to go, oops, I'm going to pause this sim. I'm going to go ahead and there's like this eraser button that says delete. And I'm going to go ahead and erase that spot that I made on accident. And now if I hit play, it should progress just like I expected before.
Okay. So,
Now,
oh, go ahead, Shad.
now forgive my ignorance. Is there a way to save these off of the sim table and onto just a general video onto like a USB? Because some of the HOA people I've talked to, they don't have access to Wi-Fi and stuff like that for their meetings. So, but they have electricity, so I could project it up from a laptop or a tablet and play, oh, this is what would happen to your neighborhood. Is there a way to
Totally.
do that?
Totally. So previously when I was showing using QuickTime Player or OBS, that'll actually record like an MP4 file or like a MOV file. And that you can go ahead, throw that on a USB. You can throw that basically on any sort of device to play on. We chose to, in those original videos, upload the MP4s to YouTube. So Paula had access and she can play those whenever she wants to, or wherever you guys want to, wherever. But yeah, if there is no internet, certainly having a quote unquote hard copy on a thumb drive or on a hard drive would be very useful. So you can certainly download from YouTube, but even before it went up to YouTube, it was a standard video. And so, for instance, if I went ahead and maybe I'm going to go ahead and go to QuickTime. I'm gonna start a new screen recording right here, and I'll go ahead and play this scenario back as if this is the scenario that we had of interest. We bump the winds up, kind of change some things around a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead now, and this is all that I wanted to show, so I'm gonna pause and then maybe stop my recording. And so you can see here now, I have a video of that. Like this is the recording that I just made, playing back right now.
Awesome, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So Shad, you guys have you don't have the Macs, but I know with the PC computer, that's why he was saying maybe go into that OBS program
Yes.
and use that to do a recording. Right. I've never worked with OBS because I've got the Mac and I know I can record a quick my screen shot on my Mac.
Yeah, I think there's other software too. If you've attempted to screen record before, that's useful. I think one of them that my mom uses is called like Jing, Jing.
I've heard it for PCs.
And yeah, that's for PC. And that I think lets you go ahead and either do screen recordings or screenshots.
Mhm.
But really any sort of screen capture software,
Yeah.
you should be able to use.
Shad, I'm gonna have you figure that out for PC since you and Susan have PCs.
Sounds good.
And then we can get together and do some training together. So Kaz, going back to your question, do people have questions so far? We kind of have covered we how to go into that, the layers, the scenario box, progression for me. What's the progression is how fast it goes, right?
So progressions are actually nice. They're playbacks of certain fires.
Oh, okay.
So if there's a particular fire in your area that's in our database, so if you go to apps.simtable.com
Mm-hmm.
and go to fire progressions, you
Oh,
can see here there's a bunch of different fires that occurred each year are tabulated in our system. So I'm just going to go to 2021. I'm not sure if you guys have had any crazy fires yet in Idaho, but we'll just pick up a random one maybe.
Well, go. Oh yeah. Okay. So I know you guys have the Paradise Fire in there, right? Because that's
Definitely.
Jenny has used a lot in Australia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So actually, maybe we'll go back to that one. That was 2018, right?
Yeah.
So there's Clear Lake. I think. Wait, no, Sacramento. Go up towards Yuba City. Here we go. I think it's this one.
Yeah.
It's a North Fire. Or wait, was it 2019? Am I mistaken?
It was 2018.
Or oh, here we go. Here we go. Sorry, I was a little too far south. So here's the campfire,
Okay.
and if I hit view progression, this will bring up a little player that'll show how that fire burned. And this is given the data that's provided by the federal government. So if you guys, so like if you notice here that the fire basically explodes on this first day, and you notice that there really was no buildup to this. This was the first time any agency really captured a perimeter. But each one of these little black ticks indicates when a particular perimeter was added.
Mm.
And so as I play this back, we'll kind of see the fire grow with each one of those ticks. It'll kind of grow to each one of those perimeters. And so, so obviously it's played back very quickly. But I wonder if there is, because we built one that's way better than that one. I don't know why it's
There's
not.
one I've seen from the Australia presentation where it basically starts with the small spot so that you can see like where exactly it started.
Exactly. And I don't think I have that on my machine, but I can certainly get it uploaded to you guys. So I'll make a note of that as well to forward you, or we'll get those progressions accessible to y'all.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason, guys, that we might use a fire like that, because it's so far away, is just to show people, if we had time in any sort of presentation. I don't see this at a homeowners association meeting, but it gives people an idea how small Paradise started and how fast it grew.
Mm-hmm.
It just started as a little spark from, a power line, and 2 hours later it had engulfed the town and all of the egress from the town. That's the most important part, is that it's the spot fires that flew ahead of the main fire cut off people's exits.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the campfire is probably going to be used for that kind of emergency simulation probably for many years to come, because it was textbook of what a fire can do to cut off people's exits and make them not be able to leave something that is going to kill them.
Completely. And what we can do is I'll go ahead and work with Marcos to get those out to y'all. But I'm gonna go ahead and play one that I have on my computer right now. This is the Yarnell Hill fire, and previously I was showing you guys progressions in the progression viewer, which is its own sort of app. But here, what we've done is inside of any hazard, the main app that we're using, we're playing back a progression. And so here, this is, again, that same exact sort of presentation, but in this instance, ooh, that went real quick. You bring it back a little, you slow it down. And so I can maybe drag this forward a little bit. But this is just playing back a previously known fire. What we like to do with agencies that have a bunch of fire data, but not necessarily have these types of progressions available, we'll help them create these progressions. So for instance, if John had 5 perimeters, the Loud Springs fire and how it grew, we can combine those perimeters to create a progression like this. So here we're looking at,
yeah. So just team, I'm evolving a thought here. So we just had a fire on Sawtell, right? That lightning strike that happened about 4 weeks ago, and it wasn't big, but they went up and contained it pretty quickly. So I suppose we could use that fire data to show where that fire would have burned if we hadn't contained it.
Oh, definitely.
Loy's not on anymore, but that fire was basically right above her house.
Oh yeah.
So that's good. Okay. Yeah. So I guess we could put the fire data in, or we could work with UCAS to work on some of these things. Yeah.
Definitely. You can see here, this fire is growing very quickly here at the end. This
Yeah.
this fire actually ended up killing 19 firefighters just in that moment right there, where the fire grew very quickly. People weren't sure where they were. It was definitely a tragedy in Arizona, but this is one of those cornerstone examples that we use for firefighter training,
Mhm.
and camp is one that we use for community outreach. So I'll be sure to get camp onto you guys' machines, so you guys can use that as well.
Yeah, I think that it's a helpful fire right now. I'm sure there's going to be data coming out of these fires that are happening right now that we're seeing smoke from, but
Hmm.
camp is like I said, camp is it's textbook for how a fire can overrun people's ingress and exits. So,
Totally, totally.
uh, guys, you have any
Uh,
other questions?
I think if anything, we've definitely shown a lot today.
Yeah.
Maybe the best thing to do is have you all play with it. Maybe we'll I put the link in chat, but I'll send the link directly to Paula as well to be sure that you guys have it. And what we'll do is we'll just have you guys start to mess around, play with it. Maybe we'll come back around in say 2 weeks or something like that, or if you guys need more time.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking. Let me just take a look at my calendar here. I think that's a great idea. Why don't we like come offline and play with it a little bit,
Hmm.
and maybe come back maybe sometime in the second week of August. I can do another set us up for another meeting to do that.
That should be good. I think I mean,
What's your
I think we're
timeline? So,
pretty
Kaz,
free.
are you? And look at, we may be like, oh yeah, we got this, because it's, for me it's pretty intuitive.
Hmm.
But just to maybe have a question and answer session. Is there any day or time that's not going to work for you? The week of the 9th of August?
I think my Wednesday's pretty busy, but beyond that, most afternoons I should, besides Wednesday and Friday, I think Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday afternoon I should be good.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
Perfect. Yeah, but I think I'm not really doing much until October in terms of travel stuff. So
Okay, good. Me too.
finally starts cooling down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It's been pretty hot. I think it's going to cool down here a little bit. I'm hoping.
Yeah. Uh,
All right.
awesome.
Perfect.
Well,
I'll kind of poll the team and then send out a link for us to meet again that second week in August, and just to do questions and answers if we feel we need to.
perfect. Perfect. And I'll send you the link, and I got those notes. I'll forward onto the team. And yeah, good luck. Have fun. It's really, hopefully it's, I believe it should be hard to break. So feel free to press all the buttons and pull all the levers and see what happens. But yeah, and if you have any questions, my email, Paula has it, but it's a Kaz, Kaz at Simtable. Just shoot me an email if you have anything in particular. You want a little something. Uh, feel free to shoot me an email. Just mention that you're with IPSFC, and it should be good.
Awesome. All right. So Kaz, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Was really good.
Yeah, no. Happy to help.
Keep Susan, Shad, and Joe, if you want to stay on as well. I don't know. Chuck, you're still on?
Yep, I'm still here. So thanks,
good.
Kaz.
Yeah,
So,
no problem. No problem. All right. Well, you guys take it easy. I'll see y'all soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
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 However, I do have another meeting across town to run to here shortly, Paula. So
That's okay. I'm gonna I was gonna stay on with my team and just talk a little bit about upcoming events. But hey, Chuck and Patty, if you guys do, go and play and you do us and create a scenario, I'd love to kind of see what you guys created. I'm sure you'll do it for over there in your neck of the woods.
yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking on, is that, especially with that Rees and Lakeview subdivision, Patty, that is, that's what I'm really interested in this, and is being able to use this to, maybe someday during a little dog and pony show to go, see, you guys really will burn up there. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. I need to play with this just a little bit more to create a scenario. But I kind of poked and played here a little bit. So
Yeah, I think it's pretty intuitive. I was doing that as well. So I'll send, you got the link then, right, Chuck and Patty?
I've got it.
Okay, I'll send it out again.
Yes.
All right, sweet. Okay, good. All right. And then I'll send out an email for when we might want to do a question and answer with Kaz later.
Great. Well, thank you for setting this up, Paula. This is
Yeah.
great. This is where I'd like it to be rather than hauling around, 50 pounds of crushed walnuts. So,
Amen to that.
well, thanks much.
Okay, thanks, guys. It's good to have you on.
All right. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye. So Shad and Susan, what were we were talking about?
Do you want to stop recording right quick?
Yes, I do. That way, when I swear, people won't.